Hello, lovely humans. This is Shruti from Imagine XP, and I welcome all of you to this wonderful podcast wherein we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, which is emotional design. Now, I want all of you to grab a cup of tea or coffee, whatever is your preference, and let's get into this wonderful session. So, before we get into the actual topic, which is emotional design for this podcast, I would also like to throw upon some light on what is emotion. Now, emotion as a word is used frequently by all of us, right? But then, have we ever thought about what actually is emotion? Emotion is nothing but our responses to various situations and occurrences. Any situation that we are put in makes us respond in a certain way to it. And if we look at emotion we
And
come
its
across
components.
five different components of an emotion. First is feelings. Feelings are, subjective. I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling happy, etc. Then the second component of an emotion is appraisals. They are basically thought patterns, right? When we are put in a certain situation, we respond on the basis of our different thought patterns which have been formed due to our conditioning, how we've grown up, how we've seen things, how what we have learned. So you'll probably in a situation where your life is in danger, you'll probably think like, I'm under threat, my life is, I'm in a life threatening situation, right? Then is your expressions. So all of these are invoking some kind of facial and bodily expressions of emotions, like for example being wide eyed and frightened in a life threatening situation. Then comes your action tendencies, which is the fourth component of an emotion. So the tendency to perform certain actions, like hiding or searching for help in a life threatening situation or in a danger situation. Then comes your physical changes. Physical changes basically are symptoms of emotions, such as if you are, looking at your crush, or your crush tries to message you, so you will have those butterflies in stomach, and that is what are,
Similarly,
these physical when we
changes.
interact with any product or service, we experience certain emotions. I'll give you an example. You buy a very beautifully packaged body wash for yourself, and you have a bath with it, right? You feel wonderful, although it's just some beautifully packaged liquid soap with some perfume in it. But the whole experience, right from how it's packaged to you experiencing it, using it, to the end emotion that you have, which is, you feel good about yourself, right? Now let's put it in comparison with a situation where you are having a bath with a normal drugstore soap, which is not that amazingly packaged, and it becomes a very mundane thing, a part of your daily routine. You don't feel anything extraordinary while having a bath with a regular soap which you bought from a medical store, right? So this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of difference a simple packaging can have just by making it more beautiful. The kind of emotion it will invoke is completely different to something which is designed very mundanely. Its looks are not that great, although if even if its functionality is good, but then the it is a product is a complete package. And right from how it looks to how it functions to how it is priced, and how probably will be its long term effects, will have a very strong emotional impact on the user. And that is what we are talking about right now.
Don
That is
Norman,
what is emotional
who
design, is also called as the grand old man of user experience. He has written wonderful books such as Design of Everyday Things, Emotional Design, The Design of Future Things, Living with Complexity. He has also served as the former vice president of Apple. He is the co founder of Nielsen Norman Group. Currently, he's retired and he's the founding director of the design lab at the University of California. He's put out some beautiful words such as everything has a personality, everything has an emotional signal. Even when this was not the intention of the designer, the people who view the website infer personalities and experience emotions. Rightly said by Don Norman. And most of the time, designers focus on user needs, which is fair enough, and the user's interactions with the product or services. Now, what is being focused on is how efficient the product is, how functional the product or the service is. But we also need to understand what kind of response the product will have, which will be emotional in nature. And that is what we just discussed. Now, we also need to understand that every interaction with a product has some different levels of emotion, which is wonderfully described by Don Norman in his book Emotional Design. And that is what we're going to throw some light upon today. Now, the first level of emotion is the visceral emotion, and it is related to the first impressions, appearances, visual appeal. For example, how an uncluttered user interface will have a very positive emotional impact on the user in comparison to a website which is got a lot of um, cognitive overload, lots of information, lots of content happening, no visual hierarchy. You're not able to understand where to go, how to actually do even a simple task. So that will have a negative emotion. Next comes as your behavioral emotion. Now this is directly related to the functionality and the usability of the product. Users subconsciously evaluate how a design helps them to achieve their goals and how easily. Now, they should feel satisfied that they're in control with minimum effort required. And if they are successful in doing so, it will invoke a very positive response, a very positive emotion. The last level of emotion is a reflective emotion. Now, when the user has already judged the product or the service on the basis of how it looks, how it appears, its visual appeal, and also its functionalities, usability, how easy it is to complete a task through it without using much of his or her brain, the user's brain, right? They might now judge it on the basis of its overall performance, what are the additional benefits, how much value for money they are getting out of the product or the service. That is what is reflective emotion. That is the kind of response, if all of this is being fulfilled, they'll have a positive response and they'll form an emotional bond with the product and the service. And probably they might tell their near and dear ones to also purchase it, right? So, and that is the reason why, our parents, they have such emotional connect with their first vehicles and some products which they have still kept, because they formed that emotional bond with it. And that is the reason why a lot of people keep buying same products from the same brands over and over again, because they form that emotional bond with that product or service. Now, to understand all of these three emotions and how companies or brands like Apple are using this essence of emotional design, we need to take one example. And we are obviously going to go with the example of Apple as a brand. Now, the aesthetically beautiful products which are created by Apple have enabled the Apple brand to be associated with luxury in the eyes of its followers. Whenever we think of Apple, we think of luxury. And the consumers are ready to pay a premium price for all these Apple products, which are driven by emotional marketing, not the actual value of the product. So, if you look at any of its products, they are beautifully aesthetically designed, and the marketing also conveys the same. So, if you look at any of its advertisements, they do not speak of their technical features or how functional they are. They just look very beautiful, and that is what they're targeting on, targeting the visceral emotion of the
If we talk
user.
about
Apple targeting the behavioral emotion of the users, we can understand this by how every iPhone functions almost the same way as its predecessor. So users use the latest iPhone or the newest iPhone, whatever is there, which has been launched in the market, and they don't have to learn anything new. The operating system is the same, the functionality is the same. And that is what makes them so appealing, because you don't have to learn anything extra to use them. You open the box, you turn the phone on, you sign up, everything is ready to use. And because the user already knows how to use the operating system, go how to use the apps, he or she is having that positive emotion, that feeling of happiness, that they have a new phone which doesn't require anything new or any skill set to use it, and it makes it more efficient, more usable. So they have the feeling of something new, but then they also know that it is familiar to them. The idea of using it is familiar to them. And that is what is behavioral emotion. Now let's look at the reflective emotion, how that is being generated, a positive reflective emotion. Apple has always been focusing on creating products that work well in their own ecosystems. For example, if you have an iPad, you can connect it to your phone. It gets so you sign in with the same ID, and everything is now working on a similar page. So you can access all your apps on multiple devices across all your Apple projects, Apple products, like your phone, your iPhone, your MacBook, etc. So that aspect leads to the idea of having a sense of buying the most excellent products in the market, right? Having that wonderful uh, sense of having something which is to do with luxury, to be able to connect with the user on the level that they feel that they have invested in something wonderful for themselves. And it invokes a feeling of having a status symbol, having something which is to do with luxury, having something to do with, you know, an excellent investment in something which is a wonderful product in comparison to other products, right? That is reflective emotion which is generated. All of these three combined together creates that emotion of happiness once you've bought the product. I hope this podcast gave you some value and was an addition in the journey of your learning. Hope to make more podcasts and see you guys again. Thank you so much for tuning in, and all the best.